Great. Welcome, everyone. Hope this is a good afternoon to everyone. This is a regular board meeting of the Board of Directors of the East Bay Regional Park District. Today is April 20th, 2021, and the start time is at 1:09, almost on time. Clerk of the board, may you please take a roll call, please?
Sorry, Director Lane?
Aye. Are here.
Director Wieskamp?
Here.
Director Eccles? I see you. Director Coffey?
Here.
Director Waspy?
Here.
Director Corbett?
Here.
President Rosario?
Here.
And executive team members, General Manager Lansworth?
Here.
District Council Victor? I know she's here. I saw her.
Yeah.
AGM CFO Deborah Ocker?
Here.
AGM Johnson? AGM Kelchner?
Here.
Chief Chiobaro? Eric Fuller. And I believe that's all of, and AGM Jim O'Connor.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Director Wieskamp, can I ask you to do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic
For which it stands,
one nation, under
under God,
liberty
indivisible,
and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Monday. And also, Director, do you have an acknowledgement that you would like to do today for a tribe in your area?
I'm sorry?
Do you have,
Yes.
yes, an acknowledgement?
Thank you for the opportunity. The Luetcha and Yulian tribes were Ohlone speakers. They viewed Brushy Peak as a very special meeting place and came often to it in the Livermore Valley. Did you hear it?
Yep.
Okay,
Excellent.
good.
Thank you.
Great.
So today's regular meeting is held in accordance with Governor Newsom's executive order, allowing for board members to participate remotely. We are also providing live audio and video streaming and have provided the public the opportunity to submit written comments and call in for public comments or an item on the staff report and to call in and leave a voice message. Madam Secretary, can you let the public know how they can participate in this meeting?
Yes, President Rosario. Members of the public can send me an email at yburial@ebparks.org and tell me their topic that they're interested in speaking on. They can call us at 510-544-2016 and leave a voicemail that gets transcribed, or they can simply join the meeting and let me know that they are here. And those are the ways that they can comment.
Excellent, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do any board members have any questions about the meeting procedures? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Director Wieskamp and seconded by Beverly Lane. Madam Clerk, please take a roll call vote.
Yes, President Rosario. Director Wieskamp,
Aye.
Director Eccles,
Aye.
Director Lane,
Aye.
Director Coffey,
Aye.
Director Waspy, Director Corbett,
Aye.
and President Rosario.
Aye,
Unanimous approval of the agenda.
great. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Yes, we do, President Rosario. We have quite a few today. We've received combination of 32 emails and public speakers. Some of those speakers are in the meeting. I've attempted to make sure that I note who's speaking and who's not, but if I'm incorrect, please wait until I finish if you would like to speak, and then I will call on you by raise your hand. So I am going to, we had three people that emailed about mountain bikes, one person about cats, and the remainder of the people emailed regarding Juneteenth as a district holiday. I'm going to start with Kevin Brown, who is here. Kevin, you will have 3 minutes to speak. You can unmute yourself and then show us
Okay.
your face.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. I sent a open letter to everyone, but if you didn't have a chance to have a look, just briefly, quoting an article from Forbes I read, there's been a 100 to 500% increase in mountain biking trail usage just since July 2020. So there's a big demand for it. And I think what I'd really love is if the mountain biking community could work together with all of you and East Bay Parks and any other association to try to get some more trails, single track trails available to mountain bikers. I think a really good example is what they did at Tamarancho in Marin County, where they made a biker only flow trail, which has the elements that mountain bikers seek, what we want to ride, which is single track with rollers to keep speed and berms to help you go around corners, and just little tabletop jumps, just little jumps that are flat on the top and then have a landing that the most beginner can ride and the most advanced can ride alike, and that it's safe. And over in Tamarancho, there's notably no rogue trail building. There's no reason mountain bikers aren't so frustrated that they, some mountain bikers, they don't understand the damage they could do to the environment or trail systems if they're just going to build a rogue trail. But I'm sure you've seen it. It happens in Chabot Park and Joaquin Miller all over, because we're only allowed on a handful of trails. And I went mountain biking yesterday in Joaquin Miller I went on Saturday, excuse me. And within 1 hour, I saw about 40 mountain bikers, and we're all on the same trails, which is just a couple. So it would be wonderful if we could get more trail access and to be in open communication with all of you, and so we could work together so that a way to prevent rogue trail building and a way that mountain bikers can get their needs met, because there's a lot of mountain bikers and it just keeps getting more popular. And one other solution would be with Briones Regional Park. There's tons of excellent single track, but they're all illegal to mountain bikers. If we could get some of those opened up, no building even has to be done of a new trail, because it would, they already exist. If we could just have them be legal and work together so that we can have more access. With the 100 and 500% increase in mountain biking, if we could at least get, between 1 and 5 more single track trails opened up right away, would be great. Less trail conflict with hikers or horseback riders, and just so everyone's needs could be met would be awesome. And those, I'd imagine my 3 minutes are probably up at this point, or do I have any more time?
Actually, no, the bell is ringing now.
Okay.
Good job.
Well, thank you for everyone listening. I really appreciate being given the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to read the two emails that were sent in. One is from Brian Long and the other is from David George. And this is also in relation to mountain biking. I don't see them in the meeting, so I'm just going to read them. Let me just make super sure. Okay. Brian Long says, "Dear Yolanda, as a resident of the Bay Area and an avid mountain biker, I support opening up additional legal trails that are accessible and designed for the purpose of mountain biking. I request that you consider maintaining the trails as they are for multi-use for hiking, biking, dog walking, exercise, connecting with nature, etc., consistent with best practices of other open spaces, continuing outreach and education to trail users and groups to ensure safe and sustainable use of our trails, continuing to collaborate with community groups and volunteers to support the maintenance and preservation of the trails, open new and dedicated mountain biking trails where bikers can safely enjoy the sport without risking hikers, horses, or animals. Open space recreation carries enormous benefits for all people that live in and around the East Bay area. Great for stress reduction, exercise, revitalization, appreciation of nature, cultivating conservationist and environmentalist ideals, fostering community pride and improvement of quality of life. Our community has a need to support more of our recreational open space for mountain biking. Thank you for considering as you develop, thank you for your consideration as you develop the new open space master plan. And that was from Brian Long. The next email came from David George, and it reads, I reside in Martinez, California. I have been an avid mountain biker for about 8 years, and my primarily and closest hills to ride in are Briones Regional Park. It has been well established the park district stance on mountain biking has been antiquated and adversarial in the least. And despite the incredible acquisition of land over the years, very little of mountain biking specific trails have been created. Crockett Hills would be an exception and should be a great example of the potential use of well-built and maintained flow trail system. Since the inception of the pandemic, Briones has seen an massive influx of new mountain bikers and e-bikers like many parks. Unfortunately, many of these new bikers lack the etiquette which they should understand, such as slowing down for hikers and equestrians, etc. I have seen this firsthand on weekends, large groups of riders exhibiting this behavior, and it's sad and unsafe in the least. Despite its size, though, there is a complete lack of new mountain bike specific trails in the park. Many of the narrow, unsanctioned trails seem like initial cattle trails that have morphed into bike trails. Many are very poorly maintained and are frankly unsafe. However, the options here nearly non-existent. The rules are you're free to ride the fire roads, which are congested even on weekdays, with the exception of a few double track trails to the park. Here lies a major safety issue with bikers, hikers, and equestrians within a network of few congested and steep fire roads, putting all user groups at a disadvantage. It's far time for the park district to recognize that bikers have grown exponentially as a user group, and rather than spend resources ticketing bikers, perhaps a viable solution can be reached sooner or later. Mainly the unsanctioned trails, mountain bikers, riders have been in existence for years. Originally, they appear to have been cattle trails that users have adapted to single trail. With little effort, some of these trample trails could be transformed into safer mountain bike specific trails. I encourage the park district to deal with this issue as it will not abate despite its aggressive enforcement and use of the park district police to ticket and patrol many otherwise law-abiding citizens pursuant of a healthy outdoor activity. Hikers, equestrians, and mountain biking coexist very well throughout the country and even closer. See Annandale Park in Santa Rosa or Skyline Wilderness Park in Napa as examples of varied trail networks that are safe and enjoyable for all user groups. The next email came from Mary Barnsdale regarding the feral cat policy. Dear East Bay Regional Park District Board of Directors, I'm writing as a longtime park supporter and volunteer. I ask you to establish ASAP a policy that culling cats and other animals in the parks is a last resort. The policy should define the conditions that must exist and steps that must be taken before that happens. Thank you as always for your dedication to and hard work for our much loved East Bay parks. Best regards, Mary Barnsdale. And that's it for the Wilderness Trail, the mountain bikes and the cats. Let me see if I see anybody else's hand that wants to comment on that. Do a quick look. And I do not see anybody. We're going to move to the next topic, which is we've got several members that wanted to speak on Juneteenth. And And we are going to start with Deontay Allen. I believe I saw you, Deontay. There you go.
How's it going?
Yeah, yeah, fine. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deontay Allen. I'm an employee here at East Bay Regional Park District. In June of 2020, the East Bay Regional Park District Board of Directors passed a resolution stating, "Now is the time to acknowledge past wrongs, for us to listen, learn, and act as we stand in solidarity with the people and communities who are most affected by centuries of systemic racism and inequality that harm Black lives today." I received that statement with a sense of hope and excitement for the future. So today, I would like to propose some actions that the East Bay Regional Park District should consider immediately to support Resolution 2020-06-132. I, along with the support of the Workforce Diversity Committee, the Black Employee Collective, would like to propose the following goals to be implemented immediately. 1, acknowledge Juneteenth to be an official holiday for the East Bay Regional Park District employees. 2, free admission to the public on Juneteenth. And 3, creating educational and cultural programming on Juneteenth. We presented these goals to the public via online petition and received 1,379 signatures in just 2 months. June 19, 1865 was the day that changed the history of an entire race of Americans. And because of this, Juneteenth requires as much recognition as any other American holiday. As an employee of the Park District, I expect the East Bay Regional Park District to continue to be leaders in the community. And this is an opportunity to lead by example and to listen to your employees and the community. I would like to close with a quote by Vernon Myers. It states, "Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance." Let me read that one more time. Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. This proposal is an opportunity for the East Bay Regional Park District to ask African Americans to dance. Thank you for your time.
If you could provide what you wrote to the board, because I did not receive a copy of that, that would be great, so that they could read that. The next speaker is Julia Kernitz, Kernitz.
Hi, yeah, I think you can hear me, but I don't have access to video. I think I've been, the host has stopped it. That's okay, you can hear my great voice.
Yeah, you have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Okay, hi, now you can see me. My name is Julia Kernitz, and I am a park ranger at Wildcat Canyon in Richmond. I'm honored every day to represent the Park District as a ranger at Wildcat and Alvarado Park. In the Park District, we are the stewards of incredible public spaces paid for by the entire East Bay community. Establishing Juneteenth as a district holiday is an excellent opportunity for the district to recognize and uplift the Black community in our region. As a ranger, I'm excited to support future Juneteenth programs and celebrations in Alvarado Park, a city park that once barred Black people from entering. Creating Juneteenth as a holiday not only recognizes a liberation of the Black community, but helps our entire world community move towards a mass liberation from our own racism and our own brutal history. This is the opportunity to start writing our own inclusive future for the community of the East Bay. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Marva Reed. I know I saw you.
I'm here.
There you go.
Wait a
Okay.
minute. Hi, my name is
Hi.
Marva Reed. I'm a resident of Richmond. And I think it's interesting that you started off the meeting with whose land this was in the beginning. And now we're talking about celebrating Juneteenth. I believe that the Park District must give Juneteenth for the Park District if you're going to continue to celebrate whose land we're on now. It's just fitting that it go together. Okay, I know that came out different, but that's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Reed.
Uh-huh.
Our next speaker is Constance Taylor.
Hello.
Hi,
Let me
Constance.
turn on my video also. There we go. Good afternoon. Whoops. There we go. Okay. Good afternoon, President Rosario and members of the board. My name is Constance Taylor. I'm an employee of the Park District and a resident of Oakland in Ward 2. I'm here to express my support for the district to recognize Juneteenth as an official holiday with all of the same benefits as July 4th, such as holiday pay for employees, free park admission for the public, and cultural and educational programming. July 4th, 1776 marks the day that white male Americans became free. Of the 56 white male property owners who signed the Declaration, 27 of them were slaveholders, slave shippers, and/or slave investors. Abolitionist Frederick Douglass asked on Independence Day in 1852, "What to the American slave is your 4th of July?" I answer, a day that reveals to him, more than all other days of the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is constant victim. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued on January 1st, 1863 by President Lincoln, but did not free all enslaved people in the United States. It wasn't until after the Civil War ended that the Emancipation Proclamation could be enforced in places that had previously been under Confederate control. It was on June 19th, 1865, over 2 months after the end of the war and over 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, that Union troops arrived in Texas to make the announcement to 250,000 people who were still enslaved in that state that they were finally free. This day became known as Juneteenth, and the first celebration happened the very next year by the free people in Texas. Recognizing Juneteenth as an official holiday is an action that is very intentionally anti-racist. The history of environmental conservation is littered with white supremacists, including at least one of the Park District's founders, Duncan McDuffie. Unfortunately, this history of white supremacy in environmental conservation is not over. We can see it in the dearth of Black people in environmental fields, especially in positions of power. We can see it when people like Christian Cooper are threatened while they're trying to go birding. And we can see it every time we turn on the news to experience again and again how difficult it is to be Black in America, because the culture of environmental conservation does not exist in a bubble that is impervious to the racism that is so deeply rooted in our culture at large. One of the many reasons the district is so well regarded in so many diverse communities is because there is a history of listening to constituents when issues are brought forward. I truly hope the board takes to heart the messages from everyone who is speaking on this issue, both today and all days, and makes a decision that will show that the district stands in solidarity with Black Americans, not just in words, but with true action and real resources. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Constance. I'm going to break this up a little bit. I'm going to read 3 little short emails that came in. One is from Beverly Ingram. Beverly is the Director of Volunteer Programs at UCF Benioff Children's Hospital Foundation. And she writes, "I'm writing to share my strong support of celebrating Juneteenth as a park holiday. It would be a meaningful way to demonstrate that all are welcome and that Black Lives Matter in East Bay Regional Parks. I hope you will consider marking this holiday along with a broad calendar of cultural opportunities that reflect the Bay Area community." Another email was sent from Dan Rademacher. He says he's Oakland and Berkeley resident and regional park visitor since 1996. He says, "I'm writing to express my strong support for the district to recognize Juneteenth as an official holiday. As a major local agency beloved by the public, you have a special opportunity to be a leader in promoting Juneteenth to its rightful place as a holiday that's important, yes, to Black communities, but also to Americans of all backgrounds. A day when we step closer to realizing the vision of this nation as a place where all are truly equal and all are truly celebrated. The regional parks are an unrivaled public landscape of urban places and wild habitats, of human and natural communities, a place where we can and should celebrate the struggles and victories of our shared history. Recognizing Juneteenth in the Park District would reinforce the role of our regional parks as places where we are all welcome for shared celebration, solace, and reflection. The next speaker that we're going to have is Liz Bittner. Okay, somebody has their television on. If they can mute, that would be great. Liz,
Hi, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thanks. Good afternoon, President Rosario and Board of Directors. My name is Liz Bittner, and I'm an employee of the Park District and a resident of Richmond in Park District Ward 1. I'm here today to voice my strong support for Juneteenth holiday for district employees and for the communities that the district serves. Juneteenth commemorates a significant date in American history that far too few people know about or celebrate. On the 4th of July each year, we celebrate the passage of in 1776 of the Declaration of Independence, which states that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. On the 4th of July each year, we celebrate the political separation of the 13 colonies from Great Britain. But landowners in those 13 colonies continued to own other men and women to profit off of their labor. The sentiment of equality and liberty stated in the Declaration of Independence only begins to actually be true on June 19, 1865, when slaves in Galveston, Texas were among the last slaves to learn that slavery had been abolished. Juneteenth is a holiday that we need to be celebrating each year. In September of last year, Santa Clara County was the first municipality in the state of California to make Juneteenth an official paid holiday for their employees. This did not come about through a bargaining unit negotiating for the holiday. The holiday was created by the Board of Supervisors passing a resolution. In a quote from Palo Alto News Online, Supervisor Cortez stated, "We are not just making it an observance or a cultural day, but putting the same faith and credit behind this day in real dollars, in real significance we do with any other holiday." The Park District can follow their lead and also be a leader in recognizing Juneteenth as an official holiday, a paid holiday for all district employees. The district can put the same faith and credit behind this day in real dollars by making it an additional holiday, not a swap out for another holiday. And the district can be a leader in making Juneteenth a day of celebration for the public by providing programming and free admission. Designating Juneteenth an official holiday is an opportunity for the district to put into action the resolution that the board passed in 2020, denouncing racism and standing in solidarity with Black people and all people of color. This is an opportunity to center the Black community in the stories we highlight about America's past. This is an opportunity for the Park District to build a culture and present our values of diversity, equity, and inclusion, both internally among park staff, as well as externally to the communities that we serve. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Our next speaker will be Ari Suzuki, followed by Yuli Padmore. Ari?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Board of Directors, General Manager Cook, co-workers, and cherished members of the public, the beloved community. My name is Ari Glenn Suzuki. I work for this agency, and I'm a proud member of ASME Local 2428 and the co-chair of our Workforce Diversity Committee. I am here today to ask you to declare Juneteenth to be an official holiday for the district, for June 19th, henceforth, to be lifted up as a time to reflect, listen, learn, engage, and honor a fully telling of history. I ask that you make the park a tree-free for that day, and that we host public events to invite the community to share in commemorating an important event in our continuing American journey, and to acknowledge the ongoing impacts of the legacy of slavery and colonization through education and promoting dialogue. The true history of the United States is a story of and. July 4th commemorates the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And many of its authors and signers were slave owners that deemed the people they enslaved as unworthy of human rights. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation declared slaves free. And many slave owners tried to keep that news quiet for as long as they could. Juneteenth commemorates the news finally being brought forth to so many who were illegally still being held in chattel in Texas, and is a rightful celebration to the end of officially sanctioned slavery. Black History Month is in February because of its origin as a celebration of Lincoln's birthday on the 12th and Frederick Douglass's birthday on the 14th. We take the opportunity to learn the often untold history of Black people in America. And we need to continue to amplify untold histories of America every month so that we can make meaningful changes in our current attitudes, policies, and institutions to continue the work of abolishing racism and ethnic hate. As we hear daily news about violence being committed against Black, Indigenous, and people of color, we appreciate the board speaking out to support the safety of all people as paramount. And we ask that you stand in solidarity with the Black Employees Collective and AFSCME 2428, who have both endorsed this petition, along with many members of the community. We have a choice now to take meaningful action to call out the wrongs of the past and to work towards a more just and inclusive present that talks about all of our history. Please declare Juneteenth a district holiday now so that we can continue to work together in bringing healing to all and towards a better future for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ari. The next speaker is Yuli Padmore.
Hello, President Rosario, members of the board, General Manager Landreth, and staff. My name is Yuli Padmore, proud member of the Black Employee Collective of the East Bay Regional Park District. Change is hard. I've worked at the Park District for over 10 years and witnessed all of our sincere efforts and good work. The Park District has led conversations discussing climate change, access for all, environmental justice, and conservation and stewardship. We are wildfire protectors and preventers. We are job providers. We are community supporters and cultural and historical preservers. We are not perfect, and that is okay. We are still human. We are growing and learning with everyone else. We all thought we were advanced planners before the pandemic hit, and then the whole world was unearthed. We were flipped on our side and shown that with all of our good work and what we thought we knew of this world, we might just now be beginning to uncover the surface level of our systemic issues. The Park District has raised me. It is this agency and staff such as our Chief of Planning, Brian Holt, that first shared the story of the Port Chicago disaster and its aftermath with me, teaching me for the first time the regional civil rights history that happened long before Rosa Parks refused to sit at the back of the bus. This history was the catalyst for the civil rights movement. We are leading stewards of environmental and cultural preservation and education. We protect history. Honoring Juneteenth, recognizing it as an official holiday, would send signals throughout the Bay Area. Change is never easy. It is hard to compromise long-standing ideas, but I've seen the Park District do it before. We lead by example. We create access, acceptance, and welcoming environments. We learn from our mistakes because we lead. We listen to the community and find solutions. We try, we care, we preserve and conserve because we are not one for one, we are one for all. Juneteenth is an important holiday. It is a holiday that I learned about through the events celebrated at the Park District, through events organized by a true display of excellence by our clerk of the board, Yolanda Burial Knight, a leading member of Park District staff selected by our very own board of directors. We are not asking the Park District to start a new tradition. We are asking you to enhance and expand our current recognition to allow the Park District to do what it does best. Celebrate our Bay Area's multiculturalism, share the cultural stories that have been lost over time, and recognize the emancipation of Black people by officially honoring Juneteenth. The Black Employee Collective supports recognizing Juneteenth as an official holiday and asks the board to consider the same. Thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Yuli. I'm going to read 2 emails to break it up a little bit, or 3. Okay, Julianne Coate. She says, I am emailing in strong support of Deontay Allen and the initiative to approve June 18th as an official holiday of the East Bay Regional Park District. As a former employee of the Recreation Department with EBRPD, this is a much needed first step in making our parks more inclusive for people of African descent and all people of color. Approving June 18th as a holiday would give people a day to reflect on the history of our country and how it relates to slavery and the effects we still see in our society today. I have seen the biased practices of the district and strongly believe that the holiday of Juneteenth should be approved for employees and patrons of the park. Personally, I have been involved in equity trainings provided to the Aquatics Ranger and Recreation Department employees in 2017 and 2018. So I know for a fact EBRPD is looking to become more inclusive and more welcoming to minority communities to provide a better experience for all. Approving this day as a holiday would be a great first step in doing that. Received an email from Lance Johnson that very simple. It says, I support AFSCME 2428 and continuing with negotiations in good faith. I also support creating a holiday to commemorate Juneteenth. And the next email I received, it says, hi, my name is Isaiah Mustafa, and I'm voicing my support for Juneteenth as a holiday. Our next speaker will be Precious Shelton, followed by Meadow Darcy.
Good afternoon, President Rosario, Board of Directors and General Manager Landreth. My name is Precious Shelton, and I'm an employee of the East Bay Regional Park District. I currently serve as AFSCME Local 2428 member at large. I chair our locals membership committee. I'm a member of the Workforce Diversity Committee, a member of the Juneteenth Committee, and lastly, a member of the Black Employee Collective, also known as the BEC. Today, I'm going to take you on a walk in my shoes. Juneteenth for me started when I was about 9 years old. My late grandmother would take me to the festivities in Berkeley every year. Not knowing a lot about Juneteenth at the time, that day meant for me time with my grandmother, enjoying great food, good music, and hanging with people of color. She would always run into a friend or two while there. I remember her various t-shirts with hands being freed from chains, and every year she would have a different shirt to represent freedom. In 2014, I began working at Peralta Oaks, and every year there would be a Juneteenth celebration. And I always admired the time and effort put into the event for staff at the main office, and would love for it to be accessible for staff district-wide with advance notice and plenty advertisement. Fast forward to today, this past January, my sister and I started a Black Girls Bike Club, BGBC, because we rode our trails, our regional park trails, and there was not a lot of people of color out riding. We believe it's because there are barriers. We, people of color, can't access our parks due to transportation, can't afford to buy a helmet, let alone a bike, you name it. While BGBC is in the process of defining our mission, we've already taken the first step and broke that barrier, which is to get out there and be seen. Our overall goal is to provide people of color, especially Black girls and women with bikes and helmets, to have a monthly ride in a neighborhood or trail to those with limited access. Our next ride will be on the 24th, which is Ride with a Friend. May is our Mother's Day ride, and June we'll have a ride on Juneteenth. I'm here today to ask the Board of Directors to help remove barriers and allow people of color in the community to access our parks on Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day, starting with free admission for the public on Juneteenth, provide educational and cultural programs on Juneteenth, an official holiday for staff. Lastly, I want the Juneteenth to hold equal in significance as 4th of July, as the real Independence Day took place on June 19th, 1865. Thank you.
Thank you, Precious. Our next speaker is Meadow Darcy.
Hello, everyone. Hope you can
Hi,
hear me
Meadow.
okay. My name is Meadow Darcy. I'm the Chief Steward of AFSCME Local 2428. I'm also an employee of the Park District. And I want to say good afternoon to President Rosario. Tell my son to please stop making noise. I swear to God, he was quiet the whole time. So good afternoon, President Rosario, board members, and General Manager Landreth. I wanted to speak today on the issue of Juneteenth. And I think I'd be remiss as the Chief Steward to not address our MOU. I just wanted to read to you Article 27.1 of holidays. It says the following, and it has a list of holidays. It says the following and any additional days as the Board of Directors designate shall be holidays with pay. So in our MOU, there is actually a recognition of the board's ability and power to make a holiday at any time outside of the bargaining process. I wanted to talk a little bit about the district, and we have some new leadership, and I'm very excited to see this new leadership. And one of the questions I think before we had this new leadership that I felt as an employee was, where are we going? You know, where are we going? I know we keep it together. I know we have a lot of things going on, but when it comes to diversity, when it comes to racial injustice, when it comes to creating justice, where are we going? Where do we want to be? Racism is a structure. It's not a thing. It's not a person. It's not a thought. It's a structure. That means it's infiltrated in every single part of how we live. We have to disassemble that structure piece by piece. We can't just wait for someone to come rescue us and do that. We have to take those actions and start somewhere. What do we want the East Bay Regional Park District to be known for? Do we want them to be known for delegating this decision to make Juneteenth a holiday to their bargaining group? Or do we want people to say, did you hear that East Bay Regional Parks made Juneteenth a holiday? Did you hear that? Do we want that to be in the news articles splashed across social media and other agencies to be talking about, did you hear that East Bay Regional Parks just recognized this as a holiday? That's what I want to hear EBRPD to be known for. We asked for Juneteenth to be a holiday last year, but we were told to bring it up in bargaining. We are in bargaining right now. AFSCME is at least. We have another group, the Police Association, that is not in bargaining right now. And, leadership is not about delegating that decision to a bargaining group. Leadership is about taking that step you're on your own. And that has been our history. AFSCME has bargained for maternity leave. AFSCME has bargained for affirmative action. AFSCME bargained for the diversity committee. AFSCME bargained for Cesar Chavez holiday. We bargained for those things, and we're asking the district to stop asking the bargaining units to bargain for those items. Cesar Chavez is a holiday for AFSCME. It's not a holiday for the PA because the district wanted the bargaining units to bargain for it. So let's stop delegating our ethics, our values, our mission, our conscience, and our responsibility, and let's stop delegating our leadership. Please make Juneteenth a holiday as is within your power as board members. Thank you.
Thank you, Meadow. I'm going to read an email from Julianne Ferguson, and it says, I wanted to send a quick email of support for EBRPD to recognize Juneteenth as an official holiday. This is an easy choice in my mind, and I hope the community has been reaching out to express the same. I hope the board of directors will support this. Email from Ronald Allen, and it reads, to all personnel involved, I would like to support the cause of Juneteenth being recognized as a national holiday for all people. This is a day when race is overlooked, and supporting each other brings us closer to one world. And one more is going to be Catherine Bernal. And Catherine writes, good morning, Madam Clerk and esteemed members of the board. I'm writing in support of AFSCME Local 2428's request that the district observe Juneteenth as a Park District holiday. Recognize the significance of this day as an opportunity for the district to step up as a leader in the East Bay, honor and reflect.
I'm with the Citizens for Historical Equity, and our organization supports making Juneteenth an official East Bay Regional Park District holiday. We stand in solidarity with those who advocate to recognize our national history from a more holistic and factual viewpoint that includes honoring the sacrifices and contributions of all people. We urge the Park District to commit to racial equality at all levels of the organization. Public agencies in particular have a social responsibility to be more equitable in the way they honor historic events and revere national holidays. Commemorating Juneteenth in the same way we honor other significant moments in American history is not only an inclusive and equitable way to honor our country's history, but provides significant opportunities to educate the public about overlooked milestones in our nation's long-standing efforts to form a more perfect union. In the spirit of inclusion and equity, we are asking the East Bay Regional Park District to recognize Juneteenth as an official holiday, as a day to reflect, listen, learn, and invite the community to share in honoring and commemorating this historic day. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Wills. Matthew Valdez. Matthew Valdez. Okay, let me do a quick look here. And I do not see him. Okay, sir, if you for some reason dropped off, feel free to come back into the meeting and raise your hand. The next speaker will be William McGee.
He was here earlier.
Yeah, I know he was. I saw him.
Yes, ma'am.
There you go. Okay.
All right. Perfect. So
All right.
Good afternoon to the directors and to the staff of the East Bay Regional Parks, as well as Ms. Burial for this organized meeting to what I see. So I'm gonna make this a little bit interactive. So if Ms. Burial doesn't mind, I'm not gonna ask people to come off camera though. But if you could do your reaction by raising your hand, how many of you, or your thumb, whatever that reaction, how many people have not known about
Mr. McGee,
yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
McGee, we're just going to ask that you make your comment.
Oh, you got it. I'm going to do that then. I
Okay.
apologize.
Thank
So, my name is William McGee. I'm the director of the Office of African American Student Achievement. And one of the things that I wanted to find out was just how many people knew what Juneteenth was in school. And the reason I asked that question is because I did not know what Juneteenth was. This is something that we are striving to change in the school systems for West Contra Costa Unified School District. We are really looking to get people to understand what the significance of Juneteenth and other information that represents Black and African American people would be. One of the things that I would ask the East Bay Regional Parks to do is to recognize Juneteenth as an official holiday, especially if the regional parks cover 73 parks and 125,000 acres. That is so many people that can be affected by you all and your action to let people know what Juneteenth is. One of the things that we're striving to do is to really get ethnic studies and studies pertaining to Black people into our school curriculum. And we're hoping that that will help with the anti-Black sentiment as we go through schools and people get older. You can see that what's happening with the Asian Pacific Islander group because of us not really exploring the contributions of various ethnic groups. That is something that we would love to change. And so if the Regional Parks District would recognize this, this would then affect a lot more people as people do use the parks. I myself use the parks. And one of the things that we would love to do is have a collaboration between our great educators and the Park District and really put markers and information throughout the parks that can talk about not only Juneteenth, but other Black items. As Director Wieskamp mentioned earlier, physically and mentally, she was making some tea. I wanted some tea. because as a Black person, I am exhausted. I'm exhausted from being Black in America. And the reason I'm exhausted is because people don't know what it's like to be Black in America. If we were able to teach and have people learn about what that is, then I think that that would help my exhaustion as well as other Black people's exhaustion. One of the things that I found out about from my mom was what happened in Manhattan Beach and how the land was taken from Black people. Never learned that in school, but this is an opportunity for us to expose people to more learnings about Black people. In my background, I have Tommy Smith and John Carlos, who protested at the 1968 Summer Games. Again, these are all opportunities for us to teach people about the contributions of Black and African Americans. So I would ask that the East Bay Regional Park District does make Juneteenth a holiday, does allow for the Park District to explore that, not only for its employees, but for the greater community. And I appreciate the opportunity to give comment. And Ms. Burial, I apologize that I went off the hook at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you.
That's okay. That's okay. You can tell you're an educator because you wanted to teach right away.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
thank you. Thank you so very much. I'm going to read a email from Vanessa Allen. The subject is Juneteenth, and I would like for this to be read at the April 20th meeting. Okay. I live in a community and I go to the East Bay Regional Park quite often, at least 2 or 3 times a month. Juneteenth is one of them. Juneteenth is one that will be so helpful to the community. And if it can be a national holiday, that would be great. Thank you. And the next I'm going to read is Ross Mitchell. I don't know if you're here or not, Ross. I know you sent an email. So if I don't see your hand raised, I'm just going to read it. Okay, here we go. Ross Mitchell, Vice President, AFSCME Local 2428. Dear East Bay Regional Park District Board of Directors, I am writing in response to a recent news report about recognizing Juneteenth as a district holiday. I would like to state that I am wholeheartedly in support of the district taking that action. Recognizing Juneteenth would demonstrate that the Park District is serious about recognizing the history of the Black community in the United States and the Bay Area. I also want to address the statements made by the district representative in the piece. It is disingenuous for the district to hide behind contract negotiations for not making a decision on whether or not to recognize Juneteenth as a holiday. It is within the director's discretion to name additional holidays. Although I am not representing AFSCME in this letter, I can state that as an AFSCME member, I will continue to advocate for actions that support diversity, equity, and inclusion. I hope that the board hears the community asking for the district to demonstrate their commitment to the diverse communities of the Bay Area and take actions that match their rhetoric. Thank you. Our next speaker is going to be Jamila Smith Foles.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Yes, you have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Jamila Smith Foles. I'm a WCC USD school board trustee. I'm here to speak to the importance of taking daily steps to healing. Recognizing Juneteenth is a step to healing a festering wound that has been over 402 years old. It is the responsibility of every person in the positional elected power to walk the path of accountability. You are duty bound, and I am determined to ensure that the history that built this country is not only taught, but appreciated. We only break systemic racism when what happens to me affects what happens to you. As an educator, I know that the educational system has taken a positive step when my history is not an elective, while your history remains part of the mandated curriculum. I'm asking you to make my Juneteenth as important as your July 4th. Black people are no longer asking for allies. We are demanding accomplices. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamila. Our next speaker will be Francis Mendoza.
Thank you, Madam Clerk,
You're
President
welcome.
Rosario, and esteemed Board of Directors. My name is Francis Mendoza, and I go by he, they, slot pronouns. I'm calling in from Tuibun on Chochenyo land in present-day Union City. As many of you know, I recently left the Park District to pursue supervisory and managerial positions elsewhere, but I'm still heavily invested in our most marginalized and beloved communities. As a student aide at Ardenwood Historic Farm way back in 1994, I remember dressing up as a 19th century farmhand and running the games at our annual 4th of July Independence Day celebration. From getting smashed in the face by an errant egg throw to corralling the sheep back into their pen, I had the time of my life interpreting our history of celebrating this country's independence. Little did I know then that not everyone in our supposedly democratic country was free. Of course, I knew about chattel slavery that sparked the Civil War, but I always equated it to what I learned in my high school history class as quote unquote, a necessary evil or even an economic necessity. Though I'm a Filipinx immigrant, my ancestors share a history of colonization, subjugation, and discrimination that continues to this day. Filipinx people have had a long history of solidarity with BIPOC folks, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, from the landing of enslaved Filipinx on Chumash and Salinan land on present-day Morro Rock in 1587, to the current rise in violence against my brethren, as we continue to battle unfounded claims that Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have anything to do with the origin and subsequent proliferation of the coronavirus. Our history is inextricably linked with Black and other brown folks, and I am in complete solidarity with my sisters and brothers. As a naturalist with the Park District for many years, I learned from organizational trainings from partners such as Rise Center, Yes Nature Neighborhoods, both in Richmond, and Youth Outside in Oakland, our most beloved communities, that the history of oppression against Black and brown folks continues to this day. Last year, as Ms. Bittner and Ms. Suzuki intimated, co-chairs of the Workforce Diversity Committee of AFSCME Local 2428, the County of Santa Clara, including Santa Clara County Parks, recognized Juneteenth as a paid holiday for all of its employees, without having to negotiate it with their union or compromise on already established holidays such as Lincoln's birthday. Although I no longer work for the Park District, I am well aware of the fact that the Park District works for me. And I would like us to recognize Juneteenth as a true day of independence for all Americans, Black, brown, white, and the many ethnicities, religions, and cultures that make up the tapestry of this great nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. I see Mr. Valdez is popping back into the meeting. I'm going to read 2 emails and then allow him to speak. Aki McKenzie, and I think it's a she, writes, I support the Workforce Diversity Committee's effort to have Juneteenth to be an official paid holiday for the East Bay Regional Park District employees. And then the other one is from Willie Mims, Education Chair of the East County NAACP. And he writes, to the Board of Directors, my name is Willie J. Mims. I am a member of the East County NAACP. I am writing in support of the district's Black employees' quest to make Juneteenth an official Park District holiday. June 19th, known as Juneteenth, is one of the most important days in the history of this country. On June 19th, 1865, Union General Gordon Granger sailed into Galveston, Texas, and issued General Field Order Number 3, informing the people of Texas that all enslaved people were free. After 246 years, the enslavement from 1619 to 1865, Black people were finally set free. Their songs of freedom rang throughout this nation. Celebrations took place everywhere, and the celebrations have not stopped. Why? Because June 19th is the most important date for Black people in America. I ask that you give serious consideration to the desires of your Black employees and make June 19th an official Park District holiday. Mr. Matthew Valdez, I saw that you popped back in the meeting. You were interested in making a public comment. I hope we can get you, sir. And I do not see him. Oh, no. Okay, I think you might just have to send an email, sir. I don't know where you went. I saw your name and now you're gone. Okay, then we have Kelly Abreu. Were you commenting on a totally different subject?
Yes.
Okay, I have one more email that we actually got that was transcribed this morning by Assistant Clerk, and it is from Brian Singleton Jr. And I'm going to read this, and this will be our last speaker on this topic, and then we'll go from there to Kelly. And it reads, Brian Singleton, Junior Park Ranger, Briones, Vacaville resident, and he gives his information. It is important for the district to acknowledge this holiday for the Black employees and for the people of the community, because this is a representation of the Black Americans as we're freed from slavery, from mental, physical, spiritual, emotional abuse inside and out, and what we still suffer from today. When I first started my Park District career at Point Pinole, I rode the shuttle bus in, and a fisherman said, I refuse to share a vehicle with the N-word on this bus. I bit my tongue because I didn't want to jeopardize my career in the Park District if I was to react or say something. So I bit my tongue. A few years later, I was dropping my brother off for an interview as a student laborer at Miller Knox Park when Park Police pulled me over and profiled me and asked if I was scoping out the yard. And clearly he saw my brother get out to go for an interview with the supervisors. He didn't believe I was an employee of the district, and a fellow employee from Miller Knox had to say I worked for the Park District, and he thought I was coming to steal something. Again, I bit my tongue. I've been called a drifter in the Park District while in my Park District uniform in Lafayette while walking the property line. It's important for the district to stand behind their Black employees and the people of their community. There are tons of outreach programs that a lot of people don't know about, like the Black neighborhoods that do health and wellness hikes throughout the Park District as another opportunity to get people from the community to come out to the Park District and help educate the community on what the importance of Juneteenth is. That's another way to get people in the community that don't know about employment with the Park District. This day isn't just to have a day off from work. It's to acknowledge and stand behind your employees and the people of the community that come and enjoy your parks. It would mean a lot for me to know that the company that I work for stands behind me 100% and that they support this cause, this movement, and we can continue to educate people here on out for years to come. Thank you, and I hope you do what's right and move forward by passing this as a holiday for the Park District so we can educate the community that we serve. Thank you. Oh, Kate, I'm sorry, I missed you. You have, see your hand. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, and good afternoon to the board, General Manager, and Yolanda as well. So my name is Kate Collins. I was a resident of Martinez for 8 years. Technically, I still am, just traveling. And for 7 of those, I work for East Bay Regional Park District as a supervising naturalist at Black Diamond Mines Regional Preserve in Antioch. And I wholeheartedly support this call for the agency to acknowledge Juneteenth as a holiday, as a district holiday, to be leaders in the civil rights movement in that way, to heed the call of employees in the community who are telling you this is a way to acknowledge our nation's history, acknowledge the history of the oppression of Black people that is still ongoing in our culture, and that frankly is still a problem in the agency. So I also want to challenge the agency to do more. Start with this. This is an easy ask. This is something the community will celebrate. This is something that will give staff and the community hope for a new day in the agency. As someone who spent a lot of my 7 years with the agency in meetings, meeting with other supervisors, meeting with other managers, I can tell you, like anyone who was in that space could tell you, that the agency has a really long way to go with diversity and inclusion. And it's no mystery as to why. You know, we've heard these diversity and inclusion trainings that included often people from the Recreation and Interpretive Services department. we've heard about them, and they were such wonderful trainings. I remember one training in particular where the leader said near the end, of course, everything starts from the top. And after that training, the then general manager spoke to our group, most of our department, and gave an annual report, talked about how many women and people of color they'd hired in the last year using percentages, and said to everyone gathered, so watch out, men, they're coming for you. You know, and I think that underlying sense that Black people, Indigenous people, other people of color, women are in a competition, opposition, and a threat really runs deep in this agency. So I want to encourage the agency to be honest about that and to start collecting data that would really tell that story of who's working for the agency. The way they were collecting data in my time was they're telling, you know, keeping track of how many people they hired, not distinguishing so much between high paid jobs and low paid jobs, good union jobs or management jobs, and temporary and seasonal work. So in that way, it was easy to create an impression that there was much more diversity in the workforce than there really was. And of course, if you bring on people who check some boxes and then they treat it poorly and they leave, you can hire some more and even buff up your numbers that way. I know that's not what the board really wants. I know that's not what the community wants from the agency. So I want to encourage the agency to look really deeply and to uplift leaders within the staff who are really serious about promoting diversity in the workforce. It's a large agency, they have a very large budget. Most of that goes to staff. So the most direct and powerful thing the agency can do to promote equity in the community is to hire more Black and brown folks at every level of the organization. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kate. I've been told that there's 3 more people in here that I overlooked, and I apologize. Aceto, I can't see your last name, sir.
It's Wilson.
There you go. Okay, you have 3 minutes, sir.
So thank you. Good afternoon, President and Board. I just want to reiterate what everyone has said earlier in support of this bill. But I also would like to point out that I was fortunate growing up in Oakland that my parents taught me about Juneteenth ever since I was little, and taught me about my culture and what needs to be known about my culture and what schools don't teach about our culture. So moving forward, now here we are in 2021, and still people are asking what is Juneteenth, especially last year, as it was pointed out earlier in this meeting, that June 2020, a lot of people had questions about Juneteenth, and they were thinking that it was a brand new meeting. And this has not been a brand new meeting as what everyone has spoke on earlier. So just want to reiterate the fact that this is very important, because what we're facing in the district, as I'm a teacher in the WCCUSD, teach ethics studies at Richmond High School, what we're facing as a district is a lot of anti-Blackness amongst students and staff. This is something you don't hear that much often. So this is something that's very, very apparent. I've seen it as a staff member, and also my students have experienced it as well. So this is a step in the direction of explaining why the history is important, why our culture is important, why Black Lives Matter is important, why this is just not some flash in the pan. This is not just a hashtag. So by moving forward with this and making sure that it is available for everyone, the community, this is a step to actually start making changes in a system that has been broken for centuries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Matthew Valdez, we're going to try you again, sir, followed by Ann and then Kelly Abreu. Okay, we're not going to get you, Matthew. Okay, Ann, please. All I have is your first name, which is Ann. Okay. All right. So doesn't look like we're going to get Ann either. Matthew and Ann. Uh-oh. Okay. Matthew and Ann, please send me an email, yburial@ebparks.org. Our next and last speaker will be, oh, there you go, Ann. Okay. And you're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay.
There we go. You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Yeah, you know, I feel that Juneteenth should be celebrated and should be given that holiday because, you know, so many people, you know, part of the country was slavery was over, and down in Texas, they said, you know, people in power knew slavery was open, but the Black people didn't know that slavery was over. So, I mean, I think this is an important holiday, and it should, I agree that it should be recognized as a holiday. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for hanging in there with us. I really appreciate it through all these technologies.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you. Matthew, please send me an email, and we're going to follow that up with Kelly Abreu. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Like many cities, Fremont has detailed requirements for exactly how many parking spaces are required for various land uses, like assemblies, commercial, healthcare, residential, each category very detailed, but the city doesn't have any parking guidelines for regional parks. So when the district develops a new regional park, residents within walking distance benefit from appreciation in house values, but some Fremont residents feel special. They want their fairy godmother, the park district, to wave a magic wand and make free parking appear. They want to restrict parking on the public streets and limit access for outsiders. They want the property owners of the 2 counties to pay property taxes and parcel taxes for all those regional parks, but limit the access to a privileged few. When the city built the new Sabercat Trail and restrooms, the city repurposed existing street parking near the entrances. The city didn't block trail entrances, and it didn't restrict street parking that's for one of its own parks or trails. Cities should stop pointing fingers at the district while demanding concierge service. City governments should be partners, not freeloaders. They need to do their share to help expand parking facilities. Our politicians and park superintendents should take a balanced approach that considers regional visitors, not just neighbor complaints. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kelly. I guess I didn't hear that last part, but anyway, President Rosario, there are no more public comments. Matthew, please send an email to me. I understand that you're having problems with your connection. Thank you, Meadow. So that's it, President Rosario's for public comments.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to show my appreciation to all the speakers today. Everyone was incredibly elegant and eloquent, I should say, and both actually, eloquent and elegant. And to the mountain bikers, I don't know if you're aware that we are engaged in we have a trail users working group, and believe that information can be found on our website. And also to folks around Juneteenth. Historically, having been a AFSCME member for 37 years myself, we have negotiated all of our holidays in that time period, in my time period anyway. But I just want to reiterate that I think it's very important that we together, board of directors and AFSCME together, approve this together. And I think it's makes it much more significant because it's coming from both of us. So, and with that, negotiations is it is what it is, and I shouldn't say that, but I think we look forward to working with AFSCME as usual. And then and I think that is it. Are there any other comments from the board, or before we move on? Okay. With that, we'll move to item C, our general manager's update. Welcome, General Manager.
Great. Thank you, President Rosario, and directors and members of the public. This is our update on the district's status during the COVID emergency. The only new item I have from 2 weeks ago is that we have recently expanded the days and numbers of reservations per day at both Little Farm and Ardenwood, which at this point seems to be alleviating some of the demand and capacity issues that we were having. So kudos to staff for remaining flexible and adjusting. If you have specific questions on that, I know AGM O'Connor can address them. Other than that, we are just continuing to monitor the news coming out and guidance from our public health agencies, specifically the state and Alameda County, as we get closer to the governor's proclaimed date of reopening of June 15th, and specific guidance that the county is going to provide us on whether or not there will be other restrictions that they will impose or keep in place when we get closer to that date. So we'll keep you posted certainly as we get more information, but that's it. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, we are now at the consent calendar.
Director Lane has a question.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Director Lane.
Yes, I am really pleased to hear that Little Farms is opening up a little bit more, and I wonder about the availability of the Environmental Education Center for people to just walk through without a registration, after or before they've been to Little Farms.
Thank you. That's a great question. I was just out there last week, and I think AGM O'Connor can answer that one for you. There he is.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Rosario, members of the board. Director Lane, in answer to your question, the issue right now is one of staffing. We're just bringing back on, working with HR to bring back on our additional seasonal staffing. Right now, the focus is on access to Little Farm, and we're hoping later in the summer we can reopen the EEC, of course, based on the current state and county guidelines. So that is our intention, to get the EEC back open. Right now, we're really focused on Little Farm and getting access to Little Farm.
Okay, so EEC isn't open at all.
Not at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the update? Seeing none, we'll proceed to item D, consent calendar. Madam Clerk, are there any questions from the board?
None that have not been answered already, the ones in advance. I don't know if any of the board members had something they had a burning desire for that didn't get an email.
Very much from the board.
No. It looks like we're fine. Uh-oh.
Do I see a hand? Director Corbett or Eccles? Director Eccles. Do you have your hand up? Oh, you're on mute.
I was just, no, sorry. And I think that was my daughter lifting her
Oh,
hand.
okay.
So sorry about that.
Oh, yeah, there she was.
Oh, hello for us.
That was your guest.
No, Teresa, no.
Okay, then.
She's ready to make a motion.
Questions? I think a motion is in order.
So moved.
A motion, or moved by Director Corbett. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Wieskamp. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk. Roll call, please.
Yes. President Rosario. Director Lane?
Aye.
Director Wieskamp?
Aye.
Director Eccles?
Aye.
Director Coffey?
Aye.
Director Wasfy?
Aye.
Director Corbett?
Aye.
And President Rosario.
Aye.
Mhm.
Thank you all.
We have approved the consent calendar.
Thank you. And now we're at Section 2, Executive and Legislative Division, and discussion regarding potential increase in board compensation for attendance at a compensable meeting of the board.
President Rosario, Carol Victor, District Council. This matter is coming before the board for discussion and to give direction to staff on an increase in board member compensation. This item came before the Board Executive Committee in January 2021, and the direction from the committee was to bring it to the full Board of Directors for discussion. For almost 30 years, board compensation has been set at $100 per meeting, up to 10 meetings each month. Any changes to board compensation had to be made by the legislature, and for almost 30 years, no changes were made. In 2019, the legislature did change our statutory scheme to provide that it would be the Board of Directors, not the legislature, who could decide to increase compensation for board members. The legislation authorized an increase in compensation by no more than 5% for each calendar year. And under the statutory changes, the Park District was directed to follow the water code procedures for increasing board member compensation. In response to this change in law in 2019, the board adopted its first increase in over 30 years, which was a 5% increase, or $5 for a compensable meeting. This increase became effective in September 2019. At the executive committee, the directors asked for a comparison of other agencies regarding the compensation their board members or council members receive for attending compensable meetings. Mid-Peninsula Open Space, which is our sister 5500 Public Resources Code 5500 district, recently increased their compensation to $105 per meeting. Water districts, which we are following the water code in increasing compensation, they have a wide range of compensation for their boards. By comparison, Contra Costa Water District pays $100 per meeting, and Santa Clara Valley Water District compensates its members at $273 per meeting. Staff is seeking direction from the Board of Directors on to whether we should bring forward an ordinance for adoption to increase board compensation and what that amount might be. The board waits until July to take action. It can increase compensation by up to 10% because 2 calendar years will have passed since the last increase. 10% would be the ceiling, and the board can set the increase for something less than 10%. A 5% increase would be an increase of $5.25 per meeting. A 10% increase would be an increase of $10.50 per meeting. And with that, I will conclude my report. And if the board has any questions, otherwise, we would just like some direction from the board on how they'd like to proceed.
I'll put it to my fellow Board of Directors. Any questions or comments, please? Director Wasby.
Yeah, I appreciate the efforts on doing this, and I know it's kind of an interesting process to raise our rate $5 to $5.21 means nothing. We don't do this for the money, obviously. Yeah, I would just like to put out a proposal in the spirit of we used to call ourselves. I would propose, why don't we take whatever AFSCME gets? If AFSCME negotiates a 3% raise, I think we should take what AFSCME gets. And I know we leave out the police union, but generally, well, AFSCME is the largest union. We want to do what our colleagues get. The union gets 3% cost of living. I think we should get 3%. If they get, and obviously with a cap of 5. Because we can't go any further than that. But I would like to take what our members get.
If I may, Director Wasby, I would be concerned about tying it directly to AFSCME's, because we're in labor negotiations. It is a labor contract that the board is going to enter. So your conservative legal advice from your lawyer is not to tie your compensation to a contract that you're negotiating. With that, though, I mean, certainly general principles like that would be to guide the board would be fine.
Director Coffey.
Yeah, what Dennis is articulating was my position when we adopted the $5 meeting raise. I haven't done the math, but maybe the way to do it, Dennis, would be to take the equivalent of what our stipend would increase based on the existing ASME arrangement, going back to its inception, the current contract. So if we start there and give ourselves stipend raises, what would that stipend be today? With raises that were equivalent to what is provided in the current ASME contract. That's the math I would do.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I think they're.
I would just ask what that math is, Director Coffey. I don't know what that math works out to be.
I don't know off the top of my head what the exact annual increase has been under the existing agreement. I think it was 3 point, I mean, someone else would know, but if it was 2% a year, then over a course of 4 years, we'd go 2% increase, 2% increase, 2% increase. You know, so the math would be whatever time has elapsed since the inception of the current contract and multiply it by the percentage raises under that contract. So that we would be doing what Dennis just described, getting the equivalent increases to the percentage increases that our workforce got.
So would we take into consideration the 29 or 30 years where there wasn't any increases for the board of directors, or
I was around, so
start from zero?
I'm around now, so it reflects my philosophy.
Okay, just wondering.
You don't want to go back 30 years?
I'm just wondering what the numbers are.
Anyone else? Oh, Director Lane.
You know, I do think we need to be careful to tying this to a contract, which of course we do approve. But I'm wondering about that whole area about what is are we talking about any alterations in what's a compensable meeting? We're keeping the same definition as what we've had in the past, or not?
If I may, Director Lane, so updating the definitions of compensable meetings was before the board, I want to say February of 2020, and then we all know what happened in March of 2020, which was COVID-19. We haven't brought the matter of the definition of compensable meetings forward, since it is part of the board operating guidelines, and the board operating guidelines are due for a review and update this year. We would we'll have that discussion of updating the description of compensable meetings as part of the board operating guidelines. And just for members of the public, that the board can get paid up to 10 compensable meetings per month. And the definition of compensable meetings is one that is defined by the board of directors.
Well, you know, I just want to say, you know, I've been on the board for a long time, and I have never, even when I've been president with lots of additional meetings, I've never gotten to 10 meetings a month under the current definition, and because it is so tight. So, and you know, I agree with Dennis, and we're not here for the money, but it is a pretty ridiculous amount of compensation that we receive as board members.
Director Corbett.
I just want to mention, since District Council brought it up, that there's no discussion, or I think even room within the state law to change the number of meetings compensated. So we're not, it would be 10 meetings total no matter what. I just want to make sure people know that that's clear. We're just talking about the percentage per meeting that is within the limited number of meetings that are considered meetings in the statute. And I would just add that the reason we're even looking at this state law is because, unfortunately, when this was passed, it was as a result of some special districts, unfortunately, how shall we say, didn't have much of a control on their increases. So the legislature stepped in to put some limitations on the way compensations were increasing dramatically in some special districts. So the Park District obviously was not one of those districts that needed that extra control from the state law. If you take a look at our compensation and even the discussion we're having right now. But I just wanted to mention that. So I think it is important to continue to take a look at the intent of the legislature to have some control on it. I don't have any particular opinion one way or the other on the 3 different recommendations Carol made. But, you know, I do think it's okay once in a while, maybe every 30 years or so, to have a slight raise. So whatever people decide is fine with me.
Okay, I'm Elizabeth. I don't, Ann. I pretty much. Oh, go ahead, Ann.
You know, I remember when I was on the city council and the discussion came up there. And there was discussion because some people, not myself, who had young children and had to pay for babysitting, a small raise might be significant. I don't know whether that's going to happen here or not. I certainly think that we are compensated satisfactorily for me. It might be helpful to someone in a different position than I'm in. That's the only thing I would mention.
I agree. So for me, I align myself, Directors Waspy and Coffey, and I taken the sentiments of Ann Wieskamp as well. I think we shouldn't give ourselves more than what our employees get on an annual basis, but I also feel that I'm thinking of directors in the future who may be younger and have those daycare issues.
Right.
And so I'm amenable to that. So we have 3 options. How about, do we need like a motion or should we do a consensus? Do you want to pose to kind of aligning with the formula as outlined by Director Coffey?
So again, I think we don't need a motion. I think in terms of direction, I think what I've heard is that the board is amenable to an increase in compensation, and where there might be some divergence is the amount. If my suggestion is that we bring it forward in July for an up to 10%, and the board decide in July what that number will be. It can be less than 10%, it could be less than 5%, but if we notice it that way, then the public's on notice.
Okay.
Perfect.
Is there going to be public comment?
I don't know. I have Linda DeChambeau has her hands up, so I don't know if that's a mistake, Linda, or you really wanted to comment. I've sent you a couple of emails.
My apologies. I'm not sure of the process going on. Is there public comment, or I can withhold it for a future date?
Okay. I didn't know if you had your hands up, so I didn't know what you wanted to comment on, if anything.
I was interested in providing public comment on this agenda item if in fact there is room for public comment. Otherwise, I will hold it for future when it is a public comment agenda item.
Well, you can comment on that, right, Director?
Yes.
District Council Director. Sure. Yes, Linda, if you would like to comment, you can. We're going to get it together.
Sorry, in face smiles and sparkling eyes and looking at each other.
You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm on the Parks Advisory Committee. I'm a former mayor, and I've served on all kinds of committees, from solid waste to the Environmental Quality Commission up in Sacramento. And this is an awkward thing for you guys to be opining on your own raises, but some of the things that aren't being raised here are definitely, or not clearly raised, I guess I'll do on your behalf, is that it's been like 30 years since any raises are done, and the amount of money you're talking about is more than made up. I mean, the amount of time that civil servants put in for preparing for a meeting, maybe not driving right now, is it's huge. I mean, I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I appreciate, you know, what I've done. And I do think if you want to attract good people, some of the other commissions, like Republic Services and things, will pay $50 a meeting. PG&E had East Bay Energy Watch, where I used to get $150 a meeting. You know, so the type of things that you're talking about is so minuscule, and it's so unadjusted for the past 30 years. I think all of you rock and roll and are doing an amazing job. And I just want to put in from the public side of things that the amount that you're asking for and that you're limited to will never make up for, even if you do the maximum, what hasn't been compensated or adjusted over the past 30 years. And I think you all more than deserve it. And I would love if an agenda item also relooked at what the compensable meetings are, because there's so many opportunities. You know, Dee even spends time and meets with me as a Park Advisory Commission member, you know, the time to plan for that and things, you know, all these different meetings. You guys do such good work. And I think some type of compensation, particularly with the consideration for younger people in the future, or even retirees in the future who might have opportunities to serve on other boards like the PG&E or East Bay Energy Watch, might be slightly swayed in where they go. If you know, a little bit of money goes a long way, and certainly a little bit of money when you haven't had that little bit of money for 3 years is more than owed. I really appreciate all of you and all that you do and the great work that you do, and more than justifies a raise to the maximum, so it somehow you can get back up to a more reasonable amount. So thank you, and appreciate letting me talk.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Director Corbett.
Through the chair, just a quick question. When this comes back to us, will the issue of compensable meetings be part of the discussion, or at least part of the background information, since we didn't do it last year?
We can. We were going to do it with the board operating guidelines, but we can.
Oh, okay.
Based on the interest of the board, though, we can try to time it so these come forward at the same time.
Yeah, Director Corbett and I are on the subcommittee for that, so we can try and get a meeting together soon, and then
yes,
then we're going to bring all that to the board as a whole too. Okay. What do you need? Anything else from us?
No, I think I've got direction. So we'll bring it forward for an increase up to the maximum amount, and the board when they have the public hearing on adopting the ordinance, will decide exactly what that amount will be.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And what is the maximum amount? What is the maximum amount? I think the public should know what we're talking about here.
The maximum amount would be a 10% increase, which would be an increase of $10.50 per meeting, or 100. It would be $115.50 per meeting.
So we'd be making a decision of $10.30 or less per meeting.
$10.50, yes, per meeting.
$10.50 or less. Okay,
yes.
So the most it could be would be $10.50, or it could be less. Okay, that's good to let the public know that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Director Wieskamp.
I want to thank the delightful person who just thanked us. Frankly, that's worth more than $3 or $4 or whatever, because that's the best compensation we can get. Thank you so much.
Agreed.
Yes. Yes. Okay, that brings us to item 3, board and staff reports. And 3A is actions taken by other jurisdictions affecting the Park District.
President Rosario, do you want to find out if they need a break or?
Oh.
Calculation.
How is everyone doing?
I'd like a 10-minute break and everybody be honest and be back. How's that?
Okay, I'm good with that.
Stand up and move.
Let's take a 10-minute break.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oliver, if you could pause that, please. Thank you. Okay.
Perfect. And we're live.
Okay, we're back.
Great. Welcome back, everyone. Director Corbett had to leave, and I believe Director Eccles is going to have to leave soon. So we will try to finish up. So we are now at item 3A, actions taken by other jurisdictions affecting the Park District. General Manager Landreth.
Yeah, thank you, President Rosario and members of the board. Just one quick update today. On April 6th of this year, the Concord City Council approved a master developer selection process for the former Concord Naval Weapons Station in an RFQ that I believe will go out shortly. So we will keep you posted, certainly, as they go through their selection process for the master developer, certainly as it relates to the 2,500 acres of land adjacent to the future Concord Hills Regional Park. And that's the only update we have today.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Okay, with that, item number 4, General Manager's comments. We have a staff presentation.
We do. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our Assistant General Manager of Public Safety, Tony Cherborough, and he's going to provide an overall department update for us today. Chief.
Thank you, esteemed General Manager, and good afternoon. President Rosario, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, Board of Directors, colleagues, and community members. Anthony Cherborough, your AGM of Public Safety and your Chief of Police. It is my pleasure to be here today to provide you with a brief update of what's been going on over the last year. And also I wanted to conclude a couple of items, or at least one key item, which we had discussed the previous year relating to some of the Attorney General recommendations that had come out that year.
Excellent.
And we're going to get the slideshow started in a second. One thing I will tell you as I start the presentation, I'm extremely pleased with my command staff. I couldn't be more grateful for the command staff I have. I've been in law enforcement now for 32 or 33 years. I'm having trouble counting now. It technically is my 4th decade, and they are absolutely steadfast. They are dogged, and they are determined and on duty. And again, I am continually impressed with them. I'm continually pleased with their performance. And I just really wanted to thank them. It is a difficult job, and they have done wonders throughout the COVID-19 crisis. One other thing I wanted to mention is that as a command staff, we readily accept the burden of command in terms of police inequities that have been done to people of color. And that's a burden of command that we accept. And that's 5 or that's 4 or 5 centuries. That goes back to the 17th century, that burden of command. And this command staff readily accepts that. We are optimistic, we are determined, and we know that we could advance forward into the future in a positive sense. And that's the attitude we have. And it's a can-do attitude. And we firmly believe in that.
Chief, can you see my screen?
Captain, I can see your screen. Thank you very much. And I'm waiting for all your wonderful faces when we show that picture of the command staff.
Well, there we go.
There they are. Yes, and you'll notice that the fire department and lifeguard services are included in this group because we are really one team. We're a true type of combination or hybrid type of police department, fire department, and lifeguard services, and we're all together in this wonderful effort. So again, I thank my command staff for all their work and their embracing of this tremendous burden that we have. Let's take a look at our numbers. We are 133 full-time employees, 133 strong. We've got about 75 sworn members, and that's a medium to large size police department. And I think that's important to see the numbers we have and considering all the good work we have and everything that's going on. It is a large department. And then finally, we get down to the Volunteer Trail Safety Patrol, and which much pride that we say this, they are back in action. They have been since April 1st. And as the VTSP Mounted Patrol would say, once they get certified, they're back in the saddle. Values, especially Director Waspy, I will never come here without talking about values. We champion these values, we inculcate them. It's the first thing we talk about when we have a new employee coming into the organization. Safety is absolutely number one. That is our number one priority. And we personalize that safety and train ourselves to be safe. And then we extend that to our sisters and brothers in the park district. So we go from park personnel, then we extend it out to park patrons. Service is number two, and that's service to our clients and our customers. And what we really want to achieve, we're looking for two things. We're looking for the return customer. We want them to come back. We want them to have a wonderful experience in the park as we serve them. And also it helps if they tell somebody else to come to the parks. And then finally, stewardship. And that's a very important value for us, which distinguishes us as a department. And we also often talk about that in recruiting. How do we distinguish ourselves from, for example, a municipal agency? And it's the value of stewardship. And that's preservation of our lands for today, tomorrow, the 22nd century, and beyond. Let's talk about the Emergency Operations Center. We play an integral role in the Operations Center in public safety. It's our job, it's our responsibility to maintain it, to get it going, and to make key personnel decisions. And we're very proud of the work we do in the EOC. Certainly the EOC encompasses all divisions. It touches everything, as that is the reason why we have an EOC. It's most efficient. It's an efficient way of handling things. We also like to run efficient meetings. That is a cultural aspect of public safety. We feel very strongly that meetings need to be limited so people can get out and work. So we do run efficient meetings, and I know we're thankful for the presence of Director Corbett. I think she may have left, but she does attend those meetings. And then finally, it ensures for proper documentation. There are certainly key aspects of any EOC which need to be memorialized, and that is a major part of the EOC. Moving from the EOC to our COVID response, thinking back now, going back a year, it's almost difficult to imagine what we didn't know. And when COVID hit, the moment we had to grasp COVID, it meant certainly we had to continue working, but how were we going to achieve that? And immediately we sought out best business practices. And in order to create cohorts, in order to protect our workforce, our patrol staff went to a 7 workday and 7 off-day schedule. Now, we were only able to maintain that for 6 weeks or 3 cycles, but nonetheless, that bought us valuable time where we had a moment to figure out how we were going to advance into a future which we didn't know what the end would be. And it also kept us healthy during that time. The second part of our COVID response was communications. We were absolutely determined that our communications center was not going to go down. We locked that communication center down in order to prevent a transmission and or exposure to COVID. And we say here at Public Safety, we literally put a moat around communications, and we created different access points. We limited the bathrooms. They had their only bathrooms that communication can use, and we greatly restricted movement throughout the building. There's some other things that we did, and this is where the joint part of public safety comes in. We certainly had to make sure that each officer had equipment. So we had to create kits for each officer. We had to go down, our lifeguard services went down to Ace Hardware, and it was really difficult. If you remember at that time, we couldn't buy Clorox wipes. And this is what we did. This is what we got at Ace Hardware. I still have this on my desk. It's a reminder. It's bleach in a bottle, which they mixed, and a towel to clean areas and clean workspaces. You'll also see, thanks to the foundation, face coverings that we put under windshields. You can see some of the other items that we purchased. One item on there is the Aeroclave. We saw that in a presentation very early on in the pandemic, and we bought one of those. That allows us to disinfect large surfaces. It has a wand, so we could spray, for example, the inside of a vehicle, surfaces in an office, for example, or we can let it provide a mist. It will push out a mist in order to clean larger areas. Statistics, I'm just incredibly impressed with the work that we've done over the last year. I should say, better said, that public safety has done. And when I'm talking about, just for a second on the EOC, remember we went through the SCU lightning complex. We went through an oil spill. We had a civil unrest and all types of things, and we were able to manage that. When we look at the work that public safety did with that additional burden of command that I mentioned, that reawakening, that reckoning, that understanding of, again, I've talked about that burden of command going back centuries, very, very difficult for us. Nonetheless, and even with fewer members, as we had some attrition, our numbers were incredible. Our calls for service, our citations, our parking citations, of course. You will see arrests were down, and that is because the jails were not accepting certain bookings. That was in order to create their own cohorts. But nonetheless, I'm just overwhelmingly impressed with the work that the Public Safety Division undertook during the past year. It's just phenomenal, and I couldn't be more grateful to be a leader of this department. New equipment. We did purchase some new equipment, and I'll move along from left to right on the screen. You can see a mountain bike there. Thank you, Carol Johnson and the foundation. And that's a pedal assist mountain bike. So we are doing our best to model good behavior when we're out on the trails. In the middle there, you can see Officer Jay Doki. He is one of our most experienced officers in terms of time, combining two different agencies. I think Jay perhaps is close to 40 years of service, and that's Zephyr. And he's standing there with Zephyr, and we hope that you'll be able to see Zephyr at some point. Zephyr is still in training. Bottom left, we've got our pickup trucks, very important for us. That gives us more ground clearance. A great example of a use of a truck is our ability to drive around the perimeter of the owl enclosure at Albany Beach. Previous vehicles wouldn't allow us to do that because of uneven terrain. You can see we have a all-terrain vehicle there. That's one of our ATVs. That's a newer one. That could be part of a replacement at the Vasco Hills fire. I believe we did lose one there. Of course, there's the great new paint scheme of Eagle 8. It certainly looks great. And just kudos to Jonathan Hobbs from the graphic design, worked with us on that. And yes, for the marketing people, there are 3 leaves on that, one on each side and one on the bottom. And also the red paint is very significant. It symbolizes our relationship, our close relationship with the fire department and lifeguard services. On one side, it says Parks Police. On the other side, it says Parks Fire. And then I'll finish up with that motorcycle. That's a Honda Africa. That's a replacement for our Harley Davidsons. Harley Davidsons are wonderful American-made motorcycles. They're just not the best for a park district. So the Honda Africa gives us ability to do some off-road maneuvering, not too much. If we really want to go deep into the park district, then we have smaller motorcycles, which are more agile. Attorney General recommendations. I had mentioned in the beginning of the presentation that I would go back and cover some things that we talked about last year. It's really been a blur. Many things have happened, but at that time, Attorney General Javier Becerra, and that's last summer, came out with 9 recommendations. And those were key recommendations for law enforcement. Those reforms were consistent with the 8 Can't Wait movement, which was a grassroots effort. At the time that these came out, we were 100% in compliance. And that is because we had eliminated the carotid restraint when Governor Newsom ordered the state to stop supporting that. And then we suspended our canine policy. Over the last 6 months, we've been studying our canine policy. We did an audit. We've looked at best business practices, and we began to make a movement towards implementing some new policies. Both of our canine handlers decided, after looking at the new policy, that it would be in the best interests of themselves, the park district, the people whom we serve, and their canines to retire from service. Therefore, both canine handlers have purchased their dogs. They are happily at home with our handlers, and we have discontinued our canine program. I have been saying in agreement and in full recommendation of my command staff over the last 6 months that we would discontinue our canine apprehension program once these 2 dogs retired. And now that the dogs have retired, we have discontinued the program. So we are no longer, the 9 doesn't apply to us, it's really 8. Are we in alignment Are we consistent with the 8 recommendations? And the answer is yes, we are. And when I look at some of those things that you see on the screen, whether it's de-escalation, whether it's the comprehensive report writing or verbal warnings, we are most consistent with all of that. I'm very pleased what I see in the department. As I mentioned, Jay Doki is close to 40 years experience. I'm not that close, but I'm over 30 years. And when I look at my collective experience and I listen to the command staff and observe them, we are certainly consistent with these practices. CALEA, the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement. We are in our 10th year of CALEA. We've had an on-site assessment that was last year when Chief St. Martin, I was going to say she came from Texas. Unfortunately, she was unable to do that because of COVID, and we were the first agency to have a virtual assessment. So we've had CALEA every single year. We go through a self-auditing process, and then of course we have that on-site once every 4 years. As a reminder, CALEA has its origins with the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, that's NOBLE, the International Associations of Chiefs of Police, the National Sheriff's Association, and then PERF, the Police Executive Research Forum. And we believe strongly in the CALEA process. It's an outside assessment or an outside look at our agency. It's an outside set of standards, best business practices to which we adhere. So that's a very strong point about our police department. And it gives me comfort as a chief to know there is an additional layer, and it's external over our police department, which governs our policies and procedures. I'm going to finish up with social media. And social media is really about maintaining our virtual community. It's challenging for us as a department to interact with the general public. I don't mean on a one-on-one basis in the Park District, we do that very well, but in terms of meetings as a municipal department would do, they have nonstop community meetings. And for us, we've realized the best way is this virtual community. So we do our best to foster this. We do everything we can that makes it conducive for park visitors to engage us via a variety of platforms, and you can see them: Facebook, Instagram, the Twitter, and also those are the 4, and Nixle. Sorry, I missed one in Nextdoor. So we continue to do that and foster that. And for Director Lane, we thought we'd put that picture in there for you. That's Officer Barry Lindsay, now Sergeant, and he's riding, and I can't believe I can recognize horses now and tell you about it. That's Guinness, and that's a Bay, and he's next Officer Jay Dowkey on Domino, who's a Paint, and they are working LiDAR on the Iron Horse Trail. That's part of our education campaign and some enforcement out there on the IHT. So in conclusion, I just wanted to thank you, the Board of Directors. It is a pleasure for us to serve the community, to serve you as representatives of the people, and we are grateful for your support.
Great, thank you. Comments or questions from the board? Director Lane.
Yes, you know, one of the issues that people talk about with regard to public safety is the use of the cameras on police officers. And I often say that, you know, our officers have had them for many years. And so would you mention how those work and how you take the information from them? I think you do it daily and keep records. So would you say a word about the
Sure. So as you said, kudos to the agency. We were one of the first agencies in the county or in the 2-county area to have body-worn cameras. We've since actually gone to a different company and through the multiple iterations of cameras. I can tell you the history of body-worn cameras really started more so on the side of trying to look at when we wouldn't use them. When would we not activate a camera in terms of trying to respect people's privacy? Now, because of many things that we see, more and more we're moving into a policy that they are activated most of the time. So certainly anytime in an enforcement situation, anytime we're making a contact that is not, for example, maybe someone asking us for directions or someone saying hello to us, that camera's on. And that is a societal expectation. And of course, we have that via policy. In normal patrol time, that camera has a 30-second delay. So the moment that officer activates the camera, we are going to get the previous 30 seconds without sound. And that is a best business practice that we utilize with body-worn cameras. They are here to stay. They are truly a mainstay. They are a part of what we do as an agency, and they are probably right now in law enforcement, I can't think of a more fundamental piece to transparency. And that is the key to body-worn cameras. Did that answer your question, Director?
Yeah, so what percentage of the time would you say the cameras are on?
It's difficult for me to give you a percentage. I would say it has to be 100% of enforcement contact. So I would have to divide an officer's time. So we spend much time driving, for example, from park to park. And I would say at least half the time the cameras have to be on. The moment they're out of the car talking to someone, the moment that is an enforcement type of situation or potentially enforcement, they're on. So it's difficult for me to divide that time. It's easier for me to answer your question to say, anytime they feel they are in a situation that is either an enforcement contact or potentially leading to that, they have to activate the camera. And it depends if it's a rainy day or if it's a day where we're under a heavy duty smoke alert and the AQI is over 150, we're advising our officers to stay in the cars and keep the air conditioning recirculated. So that could be an example where the percentage would be very low versus if they're walking around Lake Temescal doing fish and game checks, then that camera could be on nonstop during that moment.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Wieskamp.
You know, you hear about community policing, and I think we've got the largest community in the world in this area. And I want to compliment you and the entire staff because I think you helped us reach out to our community in the most positive ways. I think I give you a lot of credit and all of the employees in the police department because you represent us out there constantly. And I'm most appreciative of it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Director Waspy.
Yeah, Chief, as you know, I appreciate these conversations we have with you, and I find I'm going to use your quote. I'm overwhelmingly impressed with your organization. I would like to ask one question as also the chief of or the AGM over the fire services. I'm very concerned about mortality. I'm very concerned about our upcoming fire season. Do you, or have you planned, or do you have any plans in the future, or can you divulge any plans in the future about hiring on-call firefighters?
I think, Director Waspy, first I wanted to thank you very much for noticing. Thank you for your comments. And it's always a pleasure to see you using the parks. It's great for us to know you're out there. And this is where I start ringing bells and strike a second or third alarm and call for Chief Tiley.
I'm here, boss.
And
Director
Chief,
Waspy, to answer your question, we are looking to hire OCS and to bolster our program. Recently, within the last 2 years, we started enforcing our leave of absence policy, which basically says that you have a right to leave of absence. We do it for a year and only twice, in a 5-year period. So for those folks who, life changes for people sometimes, they start to have children, maybe if they're in the park district and they need to take some time off because family is more important. They take a leave of absence and then sometimes they eventually just decide to turn in their gear. We always have the door open to them if they want to come back. So we're taking a look at our numbers. I'm going to start working very closely very soon. In fact, it's interesting you brought this up because I was working on a plan today to take to HR so that we can start to talk about the OCF program moving forward. I don't know if you know, but I'm currently, all of the OCF lieutenants have either retired, promoted, or moved on to full-time fire service outside of the Park District. I'd like to have that leadership in place prior. So I will probably hire from the ranks of the OCFs I have now, put them through leadership training at the end of the year, and then try to hire next year in a revamped program. In revamping that program, we'll be working with operations primarily because that's a large part of where our OCF staff comes from, and also with HR to kind of take a look at moving forward, what changes we might want to make. It's been a very good program, but every program needs to be reevaluated, right? So we're in that reevaluation process right now. And like I said, I'll be moving forward with operations and with HR to develop a new and improved plan, maybe a smaller department, but with more availability. That's what I will be pushing for because we do borrow most of those staff from other places in the Park District. We want to make sure there's a good balance, but I do plan to grow the program.
Great, appreciate your efforts.
Any other questions or comments? Director Coffey.
Just a quick question, but Chief, thank you for the presentation. Very informative. I was just curious, is the new Eagle 8 in operations yet?
Eagle 8, thank you, sir. You're most welcome. Eagle 8 is at the end of the month will be finished in Mississippi. Eagle 8 will then be shipped to Southern California, to San Diego County, where we will install all the electronics. And I don't have all the cool words to say. I call it the electronics. That would be the mission suite if you're in the ASU world. And then we expect its arrival sometime towards the end of August.
Okay.
We will actually fly it up. It's getting shipped to Southern California, and then our pilots will fly it home from there.
Thank you.
Great, my turn. This is a great presentation. I just wanted to thank you, your officers, your command staff, and the POA on how quickly you adhered, our department adhered to the recommendations from the Attorney General. I think it was almost like as soon as it was out, it was done. And I think that goes to how you care about not only yourselves, but your community and the people we serve. So I really, really appreciate that quick turnaround and attention to community needs and responses. My question for you is, how many officers are you down right now?
Sir, you are most welcome. And the number, and I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to look to see if I get some head nods. I would say 12.84. Do I have that correct?
Wow.
That's correct, right? And that is combining. We are down, for example, in the air support unit. We are down a pilot who's going through the hiring process. I can say, though, I can turn that positive deficit, that negative, which is a deficit, into something to which we very much look forward. And that is we are making inroads in terms of DEI and also in terms of hiring lateral police officers. And I've mentioned this before at the Labor Task Force. A lateral officer is someone, more than likely an employee here contacted them and said, come work over here. So that is something that we very much look forward to. That we have 5 in line, highly experienced officers. 3 out of the 5 speak Spanish. We do have a black officer who's coming on board who is in the final stages of that. And then we're also looking at another officer who had some experience with another agency, a wildlife agency. So yes, we are down. At the same time, we're working furiously between the police department and HR to gain ground on these numbers. And we've also been in touch with the Black Employee Collective regarding hiring more people of color. How can we make inroads in that area as well?
Great. And I always ask about our dispatch unit, because they're a key position not only for police and fire, but to our park operations as well. And I'm just curious, are we fully staffed there?
I'm going to have Captain Love help me out with that, or he's fast. He's sending me a message, 6 vacancies.
Hey.
And I'm not sure if Captain Love has any other information on that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chief. Yes, we're continuing to hire. We have some in training as well. We had some unanticipated departures who are essentially leaving the field. So we are going to continue to we're essentially continue to hire, train, as well as promote, because we did lose some supervisors. So we're going to continue to move forward. They are an integral part of public safety, as last week was National Telecommunicators Week. And thank you to the General Manager, Sabrina Landreth, who visited Dispatch, and to thank them for their service. And we will continue to staff them. And it is a priority for me to get those positions filled.
Yeah, I think that's a key position. And particularly during COVID, even more isolated than they are already. And so those folks are close to my heart there, having been dealt with them as a fire lieutenant before, and seeing the confines of their work. It's amazing what they do. And so yeah, we need to recruit. So thank you. And then for Chief Tiley, how many OCS firefighters do we have? How many are we down, I should say?
Director Rosario, we're currently down about 9 positions. And that's to say that we usually like to run around 42 or so. But the biggest thing we're dealing with right now is I'm down a assistant fire chief, 1 captain, and 1 lieutenant. But that gives the opportunity to do some succession planning and to give people the opportunity to be placed in acting positions. And so that's what we're doing currently. District's still in good hands. Just needs a little more attention on my part, and people will come away with the opportunity, the experience of acting in a position above theirs. But we are also in recruitment at the same time.
Right. Wow. Fire season's just around the corner.
Oh, I know.
Well, I thank you for all your work. I think you guys lead by example, and proud to be to support you guys, and guys and girls. So
thank you, Director. Very much appreciated. And thank you for recognizing the Police Association as well. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And that leaves us to, is that the, yeah, here we go. Board committee reports. Any additions to the legislative committee, Director Wieskamp?
Hey, I think we've moved forward on practically everything.
Yeah. Executive committee, I think same there. Any announcements from closed session?
President Rosario, there are no announcements from closed session.
Okay, thank you. And now we're at board comments, and 2 directors are, let's go with Beverly Lane. You have to leave it. You have a hard stop. We'll start with you.
All right, thank you. This the last couple of weeks, we had our natural and cultural resources meeting, which was, I think they're always really very interesting, and this one was no exception. And then along with others, I did talk to some of our congressional reps. Should have done more, but I got a little flummoxed. And so we did see DeSaulniers, I was able to talk the last part of DeSaulniers staff and talk with the Padilla staff, and evidently some of Congressman Thompson's staff has gone into the Senate office. So we have a friend doing natural resources and forests in Padilla's office, which we all thought was pretty good. Then for me, we're opening a new exhibit at the museum, which takes time. I did have a conversation with a woman who is doing East Bay Mud stakeholder interviews. And that took about an hour. It was very interesting. And, one of the questions was, do you know where the water comes from? And I think some of the people she talked to didn't know where that water came from. So that was interesting. And then I did want to thank Yolanda for introducing me to Juneteenth over these many years. And, whenever I could, I came in and I wasn't cooking the Juneteenth food, but I was eating it. For sure.
Yeah, you were eating it.
I didn't want to miss that. And so then I found out exactly what, Juneteenth was. And so I thank you for doing that, Yolanda. And now when we're talking about this as a potential vacation day, people seem very interested in having that happen. So thank you for introducing it to us, Yolanda.
Here, here.
And that's all I have. Thanks.
Like the boost camp.
Thank you. We had a special LAFCO meeting on the 8th, which I attended. And then a day I've been waiting for, I got a site review, thanks to Jim O'Connor, at Dumbarton Quarry Campground. Let me tell you, it's impressive. Everything from Kim's layout, the grass is incredible, variety of trees. It is just something we're going to take a great deal of pride in, and people are going to really enjoy. And equally important, I got to meet in real time Sabrina, our new general manager, a real person. You never know until you actually see her. She seems quite nice in person. And we took the opportunity to go across the street, sort of, and down the road a little bit, and went to look at the greenhouse at the Myers estate. So hopefully, let me tell you, our garden club there, our workers are thrilled with the greenhouse, and they're thrilled that the volunteers are about to be allowed to come back and help. It's a beautiful place if you've never been there. I was part of the Zoom meeting with Representative Swalwell-Dalton. And then I took the opportunity to talk to one of the leaders of the opposition to the county approval of the Aramus Solar Project. And his name is Chris O'Brien, and he used to serve on our foundation board, which he brought up. And then I also, excuse me, spent a couple of hours yesterday and another hour today recording a special plea for our governor to save Tesla Park as part of Earth Day. We think that's certainly an appropriate thing to happen. And I really appreciate Jen Vanya, who was learning how to do this, and together we had a great time. Took more time than many people believe. I happen to be born and bred in Texas, so I knew what Juneteenth was. But since coming to the West Coast, I had virtually forgotten about it because no one around was celebrating. And then lo and behold, I'm invited to come and eat at the Park District headquarters because Yolanda and gang said, you will be amazed at all the food we will have and the variety and homemade, and it will just be a delightful experience. So Yolanda, I give you credit for bringing it back to my memory. And I think we're all looking forward, and I appreciate all the support today to make it a real official holiday. And that's it.
Great. Director Waspy.
Thank you. On April 7th, I attended the Natural and Cultural Resources Committee. On the 8th, I attended the HASPA committee meeting, Hayward Area Shoreline Planning Agency, where we talked about the Hayward Master Plan and sea level rise, as we always do, and the future of HASPA. On the 12th, I met with our legislative affairs staff with Supervisor Valle and Supervisor Haubert about the at-grade crossing at Vallejo Mills, which is a key thing we're going to have to get approved by the CPUC. It was very interesting. It seemed like some of the obstacles to that crossing with the railroad and some county staff seemed to disappear, and it looks like we're all in agreement that this crossing is going to be a great thing, and it's going to be a continuance of the Bay Ridge Trail and a real good thing, and it looks like it's going to go forward, hopefully successfully. On the 13th, I attended the COVID task force meeting, and on the 15th, along with my other colleagues, I met virtually with Congressman Swalwell's office and Senator Padilla's office. I would like to note in our packets the retirement of George Manross. George worked for us and did a lot of polling for us for over 30 years, I think. And I miss him. I will miss him. And I commend him for all the great work he's done and leading us to many, many victories and parcel taxes and things like that. So I just want to share some appreciation for George and his staff. And also I would note, we do this all the time, but boy, these retirements are getting sentimental, Dee, aren't they? Hector Del Rio from Central Stores, Brian Hill from Hayward Shoreline, and Monica Kautzer from Redwood Park. Those are all good people that had a long history with the Park District, and Dee and I worked with each of those folks, and they were great, great people, and they're going off to great retirements, I hope. And also in the news clips, I would like to also note Redwood Canyon Golf Course. Was recognized as a certified Audubon cooperative sanctuary. So that's something we always wanted Redwood Canyon Golf Course to achieve, was that Audubon certification to where they use less chemicals and herbicides on their courses, deal with water quality issues, and positively keep habitats for plants and animals, and they've been recognized for that. And so I think both of our golf courses have that certification now. So I'm very proud of that. And I will note that if you don't see me on Friday at the board workshop, I, for some reason, had to get out of my house, and I'm going to tomorrow, Beverly, I'm going to do the Skyline National Trail. And of course, that's 32 miles. And I said, well, that's out of the question. But I read Annie Burke's article in Bay Nature. And I said, well, she did 16 miles and then came back a week later, did the other 16. So I'm getting together with a park advisory committee member and a couple friends. And we're going to try 16 miles tomorrow, thinking, oh, that was the compromise, 16 miles. But I don't know if I can hike 16 miles, but we'll find out. So
it's a discovery mission.
It really is. But thank you. That's it.
Well, you could do it in thirds, you know.
The die is cast. We're committed.
You'll find out if you need to be committed.
Yeah.
Perfect coffee.
Well, Dennis, we're looking forward to your report. On the 7th, I also attended the Natural and Cultural Resources Committee. On the 10th, I attended the legislative meeting with Congressman McNerney. I'm sorry, on the 14th, on federal funding issues. On the 10th, I attended an event in Vallejo with Congressman Thompson. On the 14th, also attended the meeting with Congressman DeSaulniers' legislative staff. And that evening, I attended a program by Save Mount Diablo on the biodiversity of the Mount Diablo parklands. It was a fascinating presentation. On the 14th through the 16th, I attended a number of the Trails and Greenway conference programs, which were mostly just excellent presentations. I found one on Marin County's experience in resolving trail use conflicts, particularly interesting. And there was a presentation about converting golf courses to parklands. So naturally, I attended that one. And the conference programs I noted in an email are still available as recorded for all of us up till like mid-May. So if you're interested in listening to those programs, I'm sure staff has the access to the programs. To get a different perspective than I normally get, I attended a program sponsored by Conserve America, which is a Republican Party-based environmental advocacy organization. And they were addressing President Biden's 30 by 30 program. Yesterday I attended President Rosario's planning session meeting for today's meeting. I wanted to close by congratulating senior management on what appear to be two really outstanding recent hires. Ms. Guerrero at Cultural Resources, I don't see her here, and Robert Kennedy, who is here for Chief of Mast. Welcome, Robert. And of note, of course, is they're both Cal grads. So I was not, I understood the hiring right away. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, let's see. On 4/7, I actually listened in on YouTube on the Natural Culture Resources, and I thought I wanted to thank Brenda Montano for her in-depth research into Larry Dunn and his father, and it's interesting what you find when you dig deep, and just the ties with the Park District and history in general. It was just fascinating. And then on 4/9, I attended the Alameda State of the City. They're moving along. They've got some really their Alameda Point is moving forward with some development, and so as well as our own park there in the Northwest Territories. And then on 4/11 and 4/12, I attended the Bay Nature Local Heroes, and on the second day of the 12th, Doug McConnell was the focus of an in-depth interview, and it was fabulous. And all the local heroes were just they're young, upcoming, and people to keep our eyes on. And then on 4/13, I attended the COVID task force. On 4/14 and 4/15, I think I attended all of the legislative meetings with Congressman Ro Khanna, McNerney, Lee, Swalwell, and Senators Feinstein and Padilla, all very, very productive. And I just wanted to thank the legislative team for setting all that up and preparing. And I thought they were quite successful. And then on the 4/16th, I had a constituents meeting. And then yesterday I had my board of directors meeting with the general manager and her team. And then this afternoon I have another meeting regarding the EDA. And then I'm also at 7:30, I'm giving a presentation along with newly elected AC Transit Director Gene Walsh to a local community. So, and then also tomorrow I have a question for Jim O'Connor. Is that still on, the employee recognition breakfast?
It's next fall, isn't it?
No, Director Rosario, that's not on for tomorrow. We'll make sure we get your calendar updated.
Okay.
It's a ways off.
Yeah. I might have missed
eager.
It. I'm glad I asked.
If you want breakfast, you're on your own.
Well, I was thinking of
Yeah.
breakfast at home and just share what we had,
Watch each other eat. Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm looking forward to my, as president, I attend the Regional Parks Foundation meeting on the 22nd. So with that, I think wonderful organization again for the meeting. I want to thank everyone who helped put this together. Dennis, happy birthday. The big 7-1.
Uh-oh, he's on mute. I guess he's gonna stay on mute.
He's a year older than I am. And with that, yes, we'll adjourn.
Thank you.
Well-
It is.
well done.
It is 3:47.
Wow.
Thank you, Yolanda, for going through all of that preliminary. It was very difficult.
You're welcome. Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
We will see you on Friday.
Oh, well, somebody has to remind us of another meeting. Oh. Thank you.